Welcome to FTMO Performance Talks, the podcast about trading performance for serious traders.
And those thoughts and feelings can create an urge to make the money back. It happens when we get too fixated on the numbers on our account. Sometimes we can call it getting married to the account balance.
Indeed, and the divorce is not fun.
Oh no, it's not. It's quite expensive. However, 3, 2, 1. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Performance Talks. I'm Michael.
And my name is Nelly. And together we are FTMO Performance Coaches.
Hi Nelly, nice to see you again. Please tell me, how was your holiday?
Hi Michael, I'm doing great. My holiday was just great as well. I didn't really have a rest, to be fair. I was hiking and enjoying the mountains.
Nice.
But yeah, it was amazing. It was just as I expected. But what about yourself? How are you doing?
To be honest, I haven't had best sleep today, but I've already had my coffee, so I'm okay.
Oh, that's good.
However, the topic for today is revenge trading, something which we as coaches encounter a lot in our sessions. And I think that for traders, this is something that we can call, I would say, an evergreen issue.
Yeah, so let's have a deeper look onto what is going on in our heads during revenge trading from the psychological point of view. We could say that revenge trading is emotional trading because our trading is at that point based on our feelings, which were created after the loss that we experienced. And emotional trading is not something that we would like to involve into, right? As if we take trading seriously, we should trade and respect our system. However, sometimes we are even aware of these things. But when we get into this revenge mode, we can just help ourselves. What do you think, Michael?
I think that this is exactly what is happening during the revenge trading, because when we are talking about it, we need to realize two things. And first one is the word revenge itself. So if you think about it, in which situations you want to do a revenge?
Yeah, well, I'd say that when we want to revenge, it is basically because something bad happened to us, and we want to compensate it to ourselves so we can feel better again. When I hear the word revenge, it actually reminds me of my childhood and how we were fighting with my brother. He would do something to me, and then I would feel like I want to revenge that, so he feels the same. Literally, to compensate that to myself. Like, you did this to me, it's not fair, I must do this to you, so the situation is equal.
Yep, so it's the feeling that the situation is not fair. And usually when we are talking about feelings, we are talking about emotions, of course. So there is an emotion from situation which I think is not fair, which brings me to another question. Why I would think that it's not fair if we are talking about trading? So in which situation I can perceive trading as a not fair thing?
Well, I guess we just came back to expectations, right? I expected some result, then it has turned out as an opposite. And here we go. I feel frustrated and I perceive the situation as unfair. I put my best into it and it didn't work out.
Yes, and sometimes there is a disappointment because we had a certain expectations about the future. And because I'm so strongly convinced that something will happen, then I can feel betrayed by the market
Yeah.
because it didn't meet my expectations. However, there is a different type of revenge trading, and the situation usually goes like this. I'm doing fine with my trading and I have some profits. Then I make a trade, which is a losing one. And after taking that loss, I can start to think something like, oh, the profits were already mine because I have seen it on my account balance. I have made them with my analysis and decisions, so I deserve that money. And those thoughts and feelings can create an urge to make the money back. And it happens when we get too fixated on the numbers on our account. Sometimes we can call it getting married to the account balance.
Indeed, and the divorce is not fun.
Oh no, it's not. It's quite expensive. However, there is a lot of research on this topic by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And just to explain it briefly, according to former economic theories, they believe that people are deciding rationally when it comes to money. For example, if I would give you a question to make a bet with me, so imaginally I would give you $100 if it will be head, and you give me $50 if it will be tail, and we flip the coin. Would you take the bet against me?
Well, yeah, I would go for it, but you know me, I'm not, maybe this is not the usual answer, but I would definitely go for it. It sounds like fun.
Yeah. Actually, I was expecting that you will say no, because that's what actually people say.
Yeah.
Because the prospect theory or loss aversion theory, as it is called, says that people value losses and gains differently. So, for example, if I will lose $100, it hurts more than the pleasure from gaining $100. And the difference is quite significant. It also makes sense from the evolutionary perspective. If I lose my resources, and we can be talking about food or any tools, I would decrease my chances to survive. But back to trading. If we use this optic on this theory, on the example I have described a little while ago, if I will make $100 in a trade and then I will lose 80 in another one, even though I'm $20 positive net, it will feel like a loss.
Yeah.
Because the reference point has changed. And imagine the opposite example. If I would have $80 loss as a first trade, and then I would make $100, so I'm again $20 net positive. But do you think that this time it would feel differently?
Yeah, I believe so. Because my last experience would be that winning trade, I'd feel like I just saved the situation as I recovered myself by taking that last trade. But I like what you mentioned before, that it also makes sense from the evolutionary perspective. I think it is the best way how to understand this. It is that lizard brain, the most primitive part of our brain, which drives us to make sometimes very irrational decisions just to make us survive. And that's why awareness is such a key, not only when it comes to trading. Awareness can help us to make those logical decisions to prevent us from our lizard decisions. And additionally, having some plan can help to bring that awareness to it and enable us to fight against those weak moments. So, for example, if I know I've been struggling with revenge trading, especially while using bigger lot size, I can set a plan for myself which will be focused on this. So I'll make sure I trade small position sizes so I do not get emotionally attached to a certain trade. I'll also create a checklist for my trades, which will include the position size, risk, and also my ideal max daily loss. Basically, I'll create some kind of border for myself.
Basically, what we are talking about right now, we are talking about impulsive behavior, I would say. And exactly as you are saying, those impulsive decisions take very little time to process, so we can't look at them as a proper decisions. So if we want to fight with that, we need to activate our newer parts of our brain. So we need to think rationally. Well, at first we need to start to think, because it's very easy to get carried away by those primitive responses. How can we do that? I need to be aware of things I'm doing right now. So basically that's what you were talking about. So it's something like stop, think about the current situation, and then continue. Like ask questions. What is happening? What am I doing? Am I making proper decision in current market behavior? Or am I just reacting to my emotions? And by asking and answering those questions, I'm A, giving myself time to think about it, and B, I'm activating newer parts of my brain where logical and rational decision making is.
Yeah, definitely. So save that lizard inside of you for a different type of situation and be rational by trading. I know it sounds easier than it is, but at the end of the day, it is all about your will and power. I ain't gonna lie to you. And if you know that you've been struggling with it for ages, then just create a checklist for yourself and use it as your guidance, sort of like a cheat sheet in a school.
For example, if I find out that after taking a stop loss in a trade, which almost hit my TP before, I tend to do this revenge trading. Then what I can do is to map those triggers and collect data. So after I will get a stop loss in almost take profit, next time I can say to myself, okay, now it's time to think twice about my decisions. Because usually what happens is that I will make something completely irrational, like which is to take another trade, which is not according to my system.
Yeah. That just reminded me, actually, one of my FTMO clients who had this pattern when after a winner, he would feel so overconfident. He would over leverage another trade.
Yeah, that's quite common actually.
Yeah, and if this one would turn out as a loser, he would over leverage again and again.
So it was something like Martingale Strategy.
Then we set a new rule together. Yeah, after a winner, he would stop the trade. He would go out for a walk, or he would call to someone and they would go for a coffee. And honestly, I couldn't imagine there will be such a difference in his metrics. And like naturally on the top of it, he started to feel much better emotionally.
Nice.
Because he's now spending less time behind the screens and more time on a fresh air with his loved ones. And at the same time, his results are unrecognizable. And yeah, of course, sometimes he has still bad days when the old habits would appear again, but we work on reducing these. And as you mentioned, that we should map our triggers and collect data. He is now at least collecting those data and trying to bring that awareness into it. So he's been reviewing his performance weekly and tracking those unnecessary over-leveraged trades. And I have to say that he makes me really happy as he really minimized them. Last time we spoke together, he even said that recently he experienced a great winner. And then he felt so confident, he opened another trade, over-leveraged again. It ended up as a loss, and his previous profits were swiped out. But at that moment, he stopped. He realized that if he'll take another and another trade, it may turn out catastrophically. Another day, he came back as a new man with a fresh mind, and he opened a trade which were exactly according to his system. Yeah, the lot size he's supposed to use, precise risk, and that one trade got him back.
Nice. Very nice example of how the process of protecting myself from revenge trading might look like. However, exactly as you described in the story with your client, even though I managed to save myself a couple of times, it doesn't mean that I have won forever. Important thing to realize is that every time I lose my focus and efforts, then revenge trading can happen again. But you know what I like about the approach of your client? That after that little slip, when he came back to the over-leveraging position, he stopped. And do you remember that one of our previous episodes you were talking about another client and his reaction was totally different?
Yeah.
After making a mistake and after derailing from the rules, he would just say to himself, whatever.
Yeah, bless him.
I've already made a mistake, so it doesn't matter anymore. And then he just would continue with emotional trading. Because it's so easy and convenient to start to think, after a mistake, I'm not having a clean session. I've already made a mistake, so it doesn't matter. But it actually matters. I remember my clients that many times they say, if I would be able to stop after the first mistake, after that first loss, then I would have saved the day. Because many times what happens is that it spirals down from the first mistake.
Exactly. And that's why it is so important to have that positive approach. And after that one mistake, realize soon enough that there is always an opportunity to fix it. And guys, I don't mean fixing my loss by revenge trading, of course. I mean fixing my discipline by staying away from those charts for a few minutes or hours at least. And then just getting back on a track. You know, the game changer is when you learn that skill to stop for a bit after such a situation and take it as a successful session, because even though you made one mistake and you had that urge to take more of those emotional traits, you were still able to control it.
Yeah. So if I could give just one small advice to any one of our listeners who is sometimes having a similar issue, maybe, anytime you realize that you are going off the track, just stop. Of course, some damage may have been already done, but you can save a lot just by taking a step back and come back later, especially if this is a pattern which is occurring over and over again.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it better. So thank you for your advice, Michael.
You're welcome.
I believe that we are getting to the end of today's episode. Or is there something else you'd like to add?
I think that everything important regarding this topic was said. I would like just to thank you for your wonderful insights.
And thank you.
So see you in the next episode of Performance Talks.
And trade safe, guys.
Bye.
This was FTMO Performance Talks. And for more, follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, and our YouTube channel.